Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode, we will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equity, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders. Black Business Matters podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer marketing and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. I'm Larvetta Lofton, your host and founder of the L3 Agency. Welcome to another episode of Black Businesses Matter podcast. I'm super excited. It's the new year, and we are talking about culture and really what culture really means and understanding the shift that you see in this place of marketing. I run a marketing firm in Chicago called the L3 Agency. We are a full service marketing and a communications agency, and we get to do some amazing work with top brands. We also get to collaborate with other top agencies across the country to support some of their marketing efforts on a community level sometimes. Sometimes it's on a, support from a content creation, and sometimes is to be able to help them identify people, influencers, people that can continue to amplify that message. And so I get to meet so many top agencies across the country who are really pushing brands to be more culturally sensitive. That is what we speak within our organization, that brands need to be culturally sensitive and really lead with that in their, marketing campaigns, in their communication strategies. And so I've had the pleasure to meet this awesome business leader that is shaping a narrative and introduce you all to Avigail Schlosser, and she is the Chief Financial Officer of OKRP. She's going to talk a little bit about OKRP, because if you're listening for the first time, you're like, what is OKRP? And they are a top, marketing, creative advertising agency in Chicago. So I'm going to allow for her to come on and introduce herself and share with her what her role is at OKRP. But she's also going to share her shift, because I just learned that they are making a pivot from their agency and what they once was and where they are today. And so I think that's also important in understanding that pivot is a good thing. So welcome to the show, Abigail.
Thank you for having me, Larvetta. I'm so happy to be here. Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. We were just talking a second ago. We can't believe, because we feel like all the years are just coming together. And, the fact that I got a chance to meet you virtually. We have virtual coffee. Remember, we have virtual coffee. We haven't had a chance to do a live coffee meetup, but hopefully we'll be able to do that. So thank you so much for joining us. And so Abigail, tell us, how did you get at OKRP? What's your journey as the Chief Financial Officer? And I know people are wondering, how is financial and us talking about culture is going to matter? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But Abigail, please tell us what's your role there, and somewhat how did you get there and the work that you're doing there?
Sure, I'm happy to. So I came on board at OKRP back in June of 2019. And I was found by one of their talent and recruiting specialists. So during that time, OKRP was going through very high growth. They had acquired several new clients, including the state of Illinois tourism. And that enabled the agency to start investing in infrastructure such as project management, HR, operations, and finance. And they just knew that it was time to hire a controller with the potential to grow into a chief financial officer at the time. So learning about the agency, the founding partners, and their vision to expand into a more, multicultural type agency was really exciting. And I think that was a deal breaker for me. I came on board and I've been with them since. It's been a great decision that I haven't regretted once since.
So, Abigail, you started off as a comptroller over at the agency and then positioned yourself as a chief financial officer. Is that how it started?
That's
That's
correct.
correct. Okay. And so, I know when we talked about this in the past, we talked about how, in the space of finance, in all of these areas, there aren't people of color. And there aren't women in those roles. So did you find that coming to this agency, which we know is dominated by men, and dominated, let's be real, by most white men, right? And so what did that feel like for you coming over to that organization and then just being able to navigate as that chief financial officer?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting opportunity. And it was actually a woman who helped set me up to succeed. And, she wasn't necessarily a woman of color per se, but I think she could very clearly see that there was a gap when it came to women of color, women in general, and then people of color within the organization and how they can help reshape the business moving forward. And so a few months after being in the controller role, I did identify, a path forward, both a strategic and tactical plan. And I just had the support of the founding partners to carry out that plan. And I think they could quickly see that my value was, definitely that of a CFO, besides just, the controller keeping the books.
And Abigail, I just love that you said in a few months they figured it out. Isn't that just what women do? We come in and we just figure it out. We just come in and figure it out. So in a few months, they recognized that there was tremendous value from just comptroller to chief financial officer. It didn't take a year to get there. It took a few months in the middle of a pandemic that they saw value. So kudos to you as a woman leader who ultimately had someone advocating for you who was a woman. And that's about culture. It really is. And understanding that leading, I think sometimes with women in those environments, it really does create that cultural sensitive environment. And so going into that environment, knowing that, was there any level of fear that you wouldn't be considered as valuable initially?
The only fear that I had was, how was I going to make a true connection, right, and impact, and more so the connection with some of the founding partners? Because going back to like men and men in business, the way that, the systems and hierarchies have been set up is that men are typically building their relationships offsite. It's either on the golf course or, in those after work scenarios. And it's like, how am I going to make a connection? And that to me was really important. And I was, nervous about like how that was going to be a genuine connection, where I started going to the gym across the street, and one of the founding partners who was a member there, he saw me at the gym pretty frequently, and that's how we were able to make a connection. So I was able to overcome like any kind of fear or apprehension about building that relationship. So we were able to, make that connection at the gym.
I mean, let me say this, Abigail. I love that you shared that there was a genuine connection because culturally, and again, I'm gonna speak to culture. Culturally, leaders, where are we? We're working out, we're doing things to make those connections. So I love that you used what I say is this personal goal or lifestyle to really make that connection. And so I think that's very much valuable in that space because really, Abigail, I think for women, and that is that, just don't believe that, you know, we're just not all work. We also have outside interests that we can make connections. So kudos to you for being able to make that connection and it worked for you. It really did on that. So your journey, Abigail, you've worked at a number of ad agencies in your past. And what do you see as agencies that they need to pay attention to, or just people that are building, marketing firms and are leading on that side of business development to really grow their business? What have you seen? Because you've worked with a lot of agencies. And so I want to know from you, what do you see things that, from those other agencies that you feel that not necessarily missing, but you're hoping could be accomplished in the current role that you're in now?
Definitely focusing on diversifying the talent, right? Both women, people of color, because having a diversified team, and not just when it comes to like race, but also different backgrounds, skill sets, capabilities, that's all imperative, right? To having a high performing team. And I think one thing I would say that agencies should start doing is not just hiring people of color, but putting them in roles where they make decisions, right? Where they have P&L ownership, financial ownership, or client-facing roles. And that's what I love about OKRP is we've already taken those steps, right? Like we are walking the talk. I mean, I'm living proof of that.
Walking the talk. Thank you for that, because I think walking the talk, when you really think about it, we see it, all the brands are, everything's D&I, everyone's putting this is, but internally what I'm seeing is that while you're putting that information out, you're really not practicing what you're speaking of. And so I love that internally, that it's also a core value of the agency, and making sure that brands understand that and not taking it on. So kudos for that. And I just want to say that, to your point of reminding us that, yes, giving, these people of color, not just beyond race, just having that an opportunity where they can make decisions. And that is so powerful, because you've put these people in roles. And I've seen it oftentimes where they've placed in role, but they don't have the power. They don't have the power to be able to make those decisions and be a part of that P&L. And I think it's important. I say that, as us being a small shop in Chicago, I really, it's important we say it's being able to be diverse in thought. So your thought may be different than my thought, but that's still important. And in being able to have those discussions, because we think that from one segment of race is different from another, because okay, they're all Black, so they all think the same. And so realizing that, no, that's not the case, or, a different ethnic group, in that we all have similar interests. And just like that, Abigail, just like when you shared the story with a partner, while you both were different as it relates to he's a male, you're female, you both had a connection in that you both cared about personal wellness, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So making that connection is the same way I think you think about thought, in that creating diversity in thought and creating that connection for learning opportunity too. So I love that you are leading this organization and understand this. But one thing that I do want to bring up that I do love about OKRP is that, and I saw it on your LinkedIn, and we'll definitely have people to connect with you, was about collaboration. We talk about collaboration within our organization and the importance of it. And I saw that throughout your organization about really being able to collaborate. Is that something that is the common culture within the organization? And if it is, how do you see collaboration really growing as a trend throughout, this space of agency life?
It's definitely a trend that's here, and it's here to stay. We consider ourselves like the aggregators of creativity, right? So we don't look for creativity to just be within our four walls. So we place a high value in partnerships and making sure we bring the best partner for any creative need into play, right? And so collaboration is just one of our core principles, and it's something that we're really proud of. And we're constantly iterating, right? So we always look at the lessons learned from any type of engagement or collaboration, and then think about, hey, what went well? What should we do differently going forward in the next opportunity or engagement? So it's something that we're very aware and intentional about.
And Abigail, knowing that, this organization is run by men, is that something that you believe you, as on the executive leadership, are able to really significantly contribute to making sure that's, something that's here to stay as a woman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, I do think it's the women who have helped evolve collaboration within the organization, right? Because maybe things used to happen differently in the past, but I think it's strong women who've been able to center their voice and say like, hey, pretty much just assert themselves into a process or into a conversation and show like, here's how I can add value, here's how I can collaborate, and here's what I have to offer. And I think we have across the board just very vocal and assertive and, women who are willing to kind of speak up. Like I can tell all of the folks that I work with, we share a common value, right? Everyone wants to show up every day and make an impact somehow. So it's really a great place when I think about like the culture and collaboration, and it's definitely here to stay. And women have really helped it evolve.
That's awesome, because I saw you guys got Small Agency of the Year under culture. I saw that, right? Did I have that right, Abigail?
You did. And one of the things I wanted to talk about regarding the culture, and we touched on it a bit earlier, and bringing, diverse folks and people of color into the mix. Like we know that sometimes some folks had barriers, right? Or didn't always have like the same opportunities or some of the same privileges as other folks. And one of the things that I am so impressed about is that how much people are willing to learn in, nurture, and mentor folks who need those barriers broken down. It's just so empowering to see the commitment that we have, right, to help each other. I mean, it's a very tough environment. It's very competitive. It's not for everyone, but I think it's one thing that makes our agency unique, right? So when I was talking about walking the talk, it hasn't been easy, and we know it's not going to be easy, but we're all willing to kind of hold each other's hand and support each other through this process.
It goes back to Abigail again. The word that you used before was partnership and collaboration, because that's what you're able to do. And you and I both know in the agency culture that wasn't something that was a commonplace, that was actually somewhere of a place where you actually didn't even read you really never really got that there was collaboration, that there was partnership, that there was places for you to stand up. You kind of were like, whatever the client say, let's do, So I think it's just interesting. And I love that OKRP is really taking the stab on that. So much so, I can't wait to share with you also those to know that what OKRP has launched in Chicago. I say it's big for Chicago. We are, we're housed here. We're the third largest city. I don't know. Sometimes I think we're third and sometimes I think we're fourth. If you talk to some people and some economists around that, but they turned Black Friday into Black Shop Friday. And that's how I got wind somewhat of OKRP and what they were able to do with that. You actually collaborated with a dear friend and colleague, Parrish Lewis, as the photographer on it. And so just to talk about that and what it has done, and you can share kind of what's next around it. But the fact that the city of Chicago found value in all of these businesses surrounding Chicago, but then this large, I say large agency to be able to help to shape this whole narrative and allow it to take shape in Chicago is powerful. So for those that are listening, it is specifically Black Shop Friday, and they highlight Black businesses around Chicago where you can support. And so I want, Abigail to talk about it, because she and I initially, when we talked, I brought this up as opportunities, and they were able to bring their clients. I know you mentioned Target and some other partners that were able to come together and collaborate to really help shape this narrative of Black Shop Friday. So please share kind of that vision and how it's constant and it's growing. Like it has now more and more legs around it.
That's right. And it's something we're so proud of. The way you explained it is exactly right. It started off as a campaign. We wanted to do something different, right, when it came to a holiday campaign. So we invested our time and resources into developing Black Shop Friday. And initially, there was no client. It was just OKRP in our Whiskey and Banana studio. We created, the content and produced it, and we basically just wanted to elevate all of the local Black businesses and make sure that we were, funneling some, attention and attraction, especially during COVID, right? And it was such a success that year two. So fast forward to 2021, we created it. Black Shop Friday is now a 501c3 organization, and it was sponsored by Target to run the campaign and the media in 2021. And the future of it is undefined, but I think there's a ton of opportunity for exponential growth. And so we're really excited about it, and we hope that it expands beyond just Black Friday, right? It should be Shop Black every Friday.
Yeah.
The ideas and opportunities are limitless.
And that is why it was important to have you on here, because we understand that when you're speaking to specifically to Black businesses who are in marginalized communities sometimes, and some of them are targeting marginalized individuals. And so they're not afforded that. But the fact that you launched a campaign where there can be growth. I mean, for those that are listening, there was agriculture that's on the south side of Chicago. There's a cigar shop that's on the west side of Chicago. I'm blessed to know some of these businesses and been able to connect, because some of them we are hoping to highlight on the podcast. And it's crazy, Abigail, I was not familiar with the cigar shop on the west side. So it was pretty insightful to see those. And then Color Me Bar, I think, was also on there, and I'm familiar and have tried their services. So I think the collaboration, I think what you all had with Parrish to be able to shoot, that you were very intentional ensuring that not only were you highlighting, but you were also partnering with businesses that could tell that story. So when you think that, Abigail, we always ask this question is, why? Why do Black businesses matter?
It's just part of the core culture of Chicago. And before getting deep into why it matters, I just want to touch on how much Black businesses were pulled through into the campaign, from the fonts to the music to the photography, as you mentioned. And the list of Black-owned businesses is long. I was a little surprised myself to see how many places that I wasn't aware of. I have my favorites that I like to shop at, but it was just a great opportunity to raise awareness of all of the shops in our city. Why is it so important? Because they are, marginalized, and sometimes the lack of resources and even support, right? And so this is one opportunity that we saw that we just felt like everyone could stand behind. And it was just such a huge success, and it continues to be successful.
And do you believe, Abigail, because you guys brought Target in as a major player, do you believe in the seat that you sit that we'll see larger brands like Target to really come behind it and really support it with dollars, right? And really make this something that can be ongoing versus, hey, we knew this happened. This is something that's just going to be here. Are you hopeful that larger brands will start to see that and make that a priority?
Absolutely. That is the long-term goal, right? I think Target's collaboration and sponsorship in 2021 was just the start. Being able to put resources and a strategic plan behind it and start the outreach to other potential sponsors is definitely the direction that we're headed in, because that is our commitment to this campaign, right? And to the organization itself of Black Shop Friday, is to continue to raise that awareness, provide resources, and to expand beyond the campaign of 2020. So that's the goal.
And so I want, for those who are listening, what is the website for those who want to learn about it, perhaps support it, and be listed?
It is blackshopfriday.com.
blackshopfriday.com. Please visit, look at businesses that you can support in Chicago. And if you're not listening from Chicago, when you travel to Chicago, you have destinations that you can go and support and learn about. It's important when top brands come behind us and be able to support that effort. And then we go behind it and further support and show up into those businesses. So I am super, elated about it because that is how I was able to connect with Abigail because I did learn about this organization. And so one of the things that Abigail, we ask all the time on Black Businesses Matter is what brings you joy?
I think my family, of course, brings me joy, but also just being able to make a difference, right? An impact. Some of this work that's so meaningful. And I'm sure, coming from the mouth of a CFO, like this isn't one of those bottom line impacts, right? Like some folks in finance may think like, hey, why are we investing so much in resource time and costs? Seeing the work, the great creative work and the collaboration that comes out of these types of campaigns and initiatives, like that brings joy, right? To see the impact that it makes in our society and in our community. I mean, that is, I'm pulling it through to this Black Shop Friday organization and campaign specifically. And that's just one of many initiatives that we've sponsored that truly brings us joy and pleasure and excitement.
So I love, when we ask that question, that makes a connection and people say family. And I love that we say that because culturally, we all are similar in that we care about our families, right? So there's a connection. I care about my family, you care. And so that's where that impact to your point. And Abigail, let me just say this for you as a CFO to say, it's the impact isn't, necessarily in the numbers, it's the difference. I mean, it's unheard of. So kudos, because typically when you talk to financial people, it's the P&L, it's the numbers, but to know that you are invested on the impact of it beyond the numbers are important and we know that to be true, but understanding, are we making that impact? And I will say right now, you're like a unicorn, literally. Because oftentimes that isn't the converse, Abigail, it's all about the numbers, like the numbers. And so for you to sit and really sit in the seat of executive leadership and say that it is about that impact, that is what we care, and the work that we do is really about making that impact. But when, to your point, you're not a marketer, you are, in the place of financial, but you get it. And I think that's what makes these unique conversations, to your point at the beginning, is like really inserting yourself in it. While I may have a different background, I don't have any experience there, I still have value. And that just speaks to your commitment and dedication over there at OKRP. And so as we continue in this conversation, so is there anything that OKRP is working on that you can share that you are excited about for 2022, that you see that's going to really, perhaps make an impact in these brands?
Yes, the commitment extends above and beyond Black Shop Friday. Another initiative that I'm really excited and proud of is that our, Chief Executive Officer, Tom O'Keefe, he's also on the board of BLAC. And BLAC is another nonprofit organization that was born from OKRP. And it's called BLAC. It stands for Building Leaders and Creators. And it's an education and internship program for young Black creative talent, right? So artists, creators, producers. It's something that was very successful this past year. And so similar to Black Shop Friday, we're looking for sponsors, right? So that we can continue all of the great efforts and outreach into the community, right? So we want to be able to elevate like young folks coming out of school who are looking for opportunities in the creative and marketing environment and even production. And so last year, 11 agencies participated nationally. And the goal is to expand sponsorship and hopefully provide opportunities. We want to double and even triple the outreach this year.
That's awesome. And, any way that we can support and share that outreach efforts, because a lot of, we hire a lot of young Black talent who are juniors and seniors who intern with us. And we can continue to share. We always say we're just one stop to your journey. There are other opportunities for you to, I say, flap your wings and soar. And so if there's opportunities, we're definitely available to share that information with some of our young talent, because we've had young talent. I mean, they're from schools from all across the country. And with COVID, we really got a chance to work with a lot that are not in Illinois to be able to participate in our internship. So I think I think it's a fantastic idea. And I love the creator opportunities, because creators really don't, as sad as it may be, I talk to my young talent, they'll say all the time, I end up getting a, kind of this industrial job because I can't really find a job in the creative space. So I think that, and that's so common for so many of them. So I love that. And I want to be able to share that, within our network, so that some of our creatives have an opportunity to potentially participate in those programs.
That's great. I'm happy to share the information. And the long-term goal is to provide career support and opportunities for our young Black talent. And last year, pretty much all of the interns were placed in an agency.
Wow.
Yes. So we actually hired one in our production studio, and she's amazing.
That's awesome. That's impact, Abigail. That's impact. And that's what OKRP is doing, Abigail. And so I just love this opportunity. Hope we continue to stay in contact with each other. Obviously, if you want to learn more about OKRP, you can visit their site at okrp.com. Abigail, can you share where people can connect with you on LinkedIn? I know I think I got your name pronounced, but so that people can find you on LinkedIn and connect with you about some of these things that are coming down the pipeline, that there may be opportunities for you to connect them further.
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn, and it's Abigail Schlosser, A-B like Victor, I-G-A-I-L, and Schlosser is S-C-H-L-O-S-S-E-R. And please remember to visit blackshopfriday.com. You can submit a business, you can recommend a business. And if you're looking for, again, a list that you can shop from, it's just your one-stop shop. You can search for different categories of businesses on the website. Loretta, this has been so awesome. Thank you.
No, Abigail, thank you for just spending some time with us as the CFO and really share with our listeners the opportunities that are being made available in this marketing and creative space. And that impact is more than just the bottom line numbers, and that alone just kind of, for me, blessed me to know that a CFO sees value in that. And so we hope that, as the founder of the L3, we hope to continue to support these kinds of efforts with agency partners. We look at OKRP because I know Abigail right now is our partner, and be able to support their efforts. So thank you, Abigail, for spending time with us on Black Businesses Matter. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Black Businesses Matter. And we are talking about all things culture. So please continue to tune in, share our podcast with individuals who are in the space of marketing, in the space of creative, because we're going to really have some really rich content over the next few episodes. So I'm super excited about that. And again, if you really want to take a pledge around this, you can also check out some of our merchandise on our website under Black Businesses Matter. If you go to the L3 agency, hit our shop tab, and you can purchase some of our merchandise on Black Businesses Matter. Thank you again, Abigail, for being an awesome guest with us for Black Businesses Matter, and we will see you guys real soon. Thanks. Thank you for joining us this week on Black Businesses Matter podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen, so you will never miss a show. You can also follow us on social media at the L3 Agency and at Larvetta Speaks. If you love the show, leave a rating so that we can continue to bring you impactful episodes. You can also take the pledge and order our merch at our website at thell3agency.com. THEL3agency.com. Thanks for listening and see you next week.